Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Chris Iveson. I'm the founder and CEO of FourJaw, and I'm joined today by Oliver Pogmore, who's our head of business development.
Yeah, morning everyone.
I hope everyone's enjoying the sunshine and having a good summer. Got some good holidays planned, and yeah, I guess there's a few people on the call already, so please feel free to look at the chat and feel free to say hello, give us a wave, because it'd be good to get some engagement in there. So there's loads of great stuff going on inside FourJaw, and we realised that we could be doing a much better job of sharing it with you guys. And when I say you guys, I mean manufacturers who are either currently using FourJaw or who are considering using FourJaw. So what we wanted to do was do a series of webinars to let you guys know what we're up to. Um, we've never done this before. It could be really good. It could be awful. I guess we're going to be sending you out a short survey afterwards, and it'd be really good to get your honest feedback about what you liked, what you didn't like. Was it too long? Was it too short? Did we cover too much? Basically, we want to be improving this as we go along. So getting your feedback is really important. Now, in terms of this webinar, so this webinar assumes that you already know sort of how FourJaw works, the plug and play hardware that monitors productivity and the energy usage of production machines. We sort of, assume that you have a base level understanding of that. So it's kind of, if you don't know what that means and you want to know more, then please do get in touch via our website. But what this session is about is all about the custom dashboards that sit on top of the foundation of FourJaw. Like I say, there is a chat function in the software, so do feel free to put any questions in on the fly as you go, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And as Chris says, this session's really all about one thing, and that is the custom dashboards. I guess if you've used FourJaw before, I know we've had a lot of customers sign up for this webinar stream. You'll know what we're about, where it's all about giving manufacturers that insight to make smarter decisions. That's really what we want people to be doing here. And we believe today, I think a lot of our customers are starting to agree with us. This comes with a bit of a serious upgrade today, which is going down great so far, and the updates that are coming out thick and fast are only adding to that.
So in terms of today's webinar, we want to cover three different things. We're going to keep it fairly short and punchy. The first thing is why did we rebuild the dashboards? Why did we build custom dashboards from scratch? The second thing is, how do they help your teams act faster and act better inside your four walls? And then the third thing is, how are manufacturers already using the dashboards to drive value and to drive productivity improvements inside their factory? So moving on to that first one, like I say, the obvious question is, why do we even do this? So just a little bit of background. So the FourJaw that we've had, the FourJaw platform that we've had for quite some time, and that all existing customers will be familiar with, we're calling that now FourJaw Classic. We first started FourJaw Classic back in 2020. Back then, there was just myself and Robin who started FourJaw, and we were in our bedrooms. It was during COVID, and we decided to take the leap and start a company. And so FourJaw Classic started from there. And we built on it and built on it and built on it and built on it. Now, today we find ourselves where we're a team of 28 people. We're serving hundreds of customers globally. And we got lots and lots of feedback from lots of customers along the way. And that feedback was essentially that FourJaw is really powerful. There's loads of really valuable data inside FourJaw if you can be bothered to go digging for it. And so what we wanted to do was to basically improve on that and to start again.
That's it. Yeah, and then the setup, the classic way of doing things. I guess the feedback was, we've not quite got that control and flexibility that we need. Is what we were being told. We kept hearing the same bits of feedback over that period. I want a dashboard just for my team, or it's taking me too long to prep for my morning meetings, maybe. And we were hearing this when we were at that 6 or 7 6 or 7 people, a handful of customers. And now, like Chris says, with 28 of us in the business and hundreds of customers now, the demand for that customization hasn't changed. Obviously, it's grown, with the number of customers we've got. So here we've really gone back to square one. We've built something that's clean, that's flexible, that's powerful. It's got features that I think many come to expect from a good analytics platform. So being able to star dashboards for quick access, pick your favorites sort of thing, which we'll show you. Sharing a view so people can have viewer access to it, which other people can have access to it, or maybe they can have edit permissions for that same view and dashboard that you built. And it also goes to automating PDF reports straight to your inbox. So making sure that you can get that reoccurring information out to the right people when you want it there. So it's all about making that data easier to use, get it where you need it, so teams can spend less time prepping and more time improving, I would say.
Just seen Alan and Philip have said that they can't hear me. Hopefully it's a little bit louder now, but I'm not sure. So just to build on what Oliver said, the goal wasn't just having nicer dashboards. It was about getting the right information.
Is your mic turned on? This will be funny if his mic's not turned on. You're probably hearing him through my mic. CEO of the bit. Did you not get his mic turned on?
I thought somebody turned it on for me. That's better.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, no one did turn it on for you, did they?
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Right. Hopefully you can all hear me now. I did say it's the first time we've done this.
Should we go back and should we do it all again? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to.
So to build on what Oliver said, I'm assuming you all heard what Oliver just said. It was all about getting the right information in front of the right people at the right time. Phil's just said his mic's not working. So
hopefully it is now. It looks like it might be now.
Okay, cool. So shall we jump in and actually show the guys something to do with the dashboards?
Let's get away from your mic not working and
moving on.
jump into something else.
Moving on.
We want to make sure that everybody sees this for what it is now, which we think is a real productivity tool and not just something pretty to look at or tick in a box kind of thing. So let me share my screen with you. Hopefully you can see what I'm seeing here. I think what's nice to show you is just the general layout for those that haven't seen it. And some of you may have seen this and not know one or two things of how it works. So in here you've got the ability to sort of show you your menu of all sorts of dashboards on the left hand side here. We've got that starred section we touched on earlier. We've got my dashboards. I've got others that are shared with me here. So you can get rid of that little menu. You can full screen this over here. So if you do need it on a live screen in the shop floor, you can go ahead and do that. It's worth saying, I don't think a lot of people know this so far, but this data here is actually always live. The new timelines that we've got, which we'll get onto, a bit of a hint of what's come there. The new timelines we've got are continuously live. A lot of the widgets that you see in here, they'll update every 10 minutes. So you can have this on live screens, in workshops, or in meeting rooms, or wherever it might be in offices, and you can have this information sort of live and ticking along there. So this is a one dashboard that I'm on at the moment that you can see. You can really easily add other widgets in here. You can see we've got a bit of a widget library building, and again, a bit of a hint of the new timeline that we want to touch on in a little while there. And the great thing is once you've built some of these, you can actually click on this settings button here, and you can duplicate all the widgets that you see. And not only that, you can actually fully duplicate the dashboard. So if you build something, say, I don't know, a great data set for today, and you want yesterday's information in a really similar format or the exact same format, you can go ahead, duplicate the whole dashboard, change the data to the other option, and there you go. You rename things and you've got a fully built dashboard of the stuff you want. So really easy to play around with. You've probably noticed there is a little star at the top there. That is where you can star these dashboards and make sure they come up in your little starred side menu here, which is cool. It is also where we've got that share option. So this is where I can decide whether other people with logins to FourJaw can have viewer access, so can see the dashboard but not edit it. and then I can change that to editor access, which means that other people in FourJaw will be able to edit it with me. So we can collaborate with different people if you need to on a dashboard. And the third thing that we wanted to mention was the ability to do those PDFs that I mentioned. So scheduling in PDF reports, a snapshot of the dashboard basically to come through via email on a recurring schedule. So you can go ahead and say, I want this, Monday to Friday in the week at 8 a.m., let's say, and I can go ahead and decide who I want to receive that. And, at that time off will come one of those dashboards that you need it on, and it'll just be there in a PDF report for you. So really effective way of making sure that we get the right data to the right people, like Chris said, right data, right people, right time. That's the idea.
And to receive those emails, you don't actually have to have signed into FourJaw. So if you're on, if you've got some really interesting information and you want to share it with somebody, then you can send it to anyone you want inside your business, inside the organization. They can then look at it. You can have a conversation around it. And to be honest with you, because we don't charge per person, they can create their own login if they want to.
Yeah. And that's it. When you think about sharing information with leadership, we'll get onto this in a little bit, I think. But when you want to share information with other people in the business, they might not want full access to FourJaw. They might not have a login, but being able to share those reports is proved to be a really powerful thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go one level deeper then. So I guess moving on to the theme 2, which is how does this actually help people make better decisions?
Yeah, and this is where we're always thinking about what happens in our customers' factories. In most factories, you've got those morning stand-ups, you've got the shift handovers, weekly ops meetings, and everyone's asking. We're told everyone's asking the same questions. What happened yesterday? What are the blockers? What caused that bad performance yesterday? Or this morning, or whatever it might be. What do we need to improve? And the point of these dashboards is that it puts that information that you need right there front and center. No more chasing spreadsheets, no more, if you're using Classic, no more editing timeframes or asset lists or other variables. It's just the data you need for that right there.
And this isn't just for managers. This connects the operators through to the sales supervisors, through to the production managers, through to be honest, all the way up to the top. And it's about having that same single source of truth that everyone can get around and have a conversation around. What are we doing? How can we do this differently? How can we do this better going forwards?
Yeah, and Chris making a good point there. That's the shift here. It turns the dashboards into conversations, as you say. People stop wasting time jumping from problem to problem, and instead spend time working on the business. Start discussing how to stop them in the first place. Is what we really want to be happening there.
Yep. So let's dive in again. Let's see how we do that.
Yeah, share my screen again with you guys. I think what's probably good here is to jump into one of the other dashboards. We've got a bit of a deep dive into a cell here. I choose this one because it's really good at showing the sort of varying data sets, which is one of the sort of inherent abilities of this new custom dashboards here, where before I would have had to select my time frame, select my area that I'm interested in, or my machine that I'm interested in, or the factory that I'm interested in, and I would be able to see the data for that time period and that asset or group of assets. Whereas now, and again, this is a great example of it, I've got the ability to immediately show top level data for the factory, or in this case, the cell. I can see that this week we're at 65.5% utilization in that cell.
In our fictional factory.
Based on truth of our customers. And then I can see today we're actually doing better than that. We're at 66.9%. I can see a breakdown of what that looks like, throughout the week so far. Obviously, we're on Wednesday. We're right on track today. It's 10:16 at the moment. And we know we're at this 66.9% or 67%. So being able to see those different timeframes and different data sets right there, one by one, is really what what we want to achieve here. You can immediately, like you can see here, immediately see the difference between how certain machines run. So we've got our In this case, we've got our Haas machines grouped together. We've then got our Akumas grouped together here, which are CNC machines for those that don't know. And we can see, you know, how different they run. Yeah, I mean, quite clearly, you know, these these two hash machines, or at least one of these hash machines here, has a bit of a problem with unlabeled downtime. And being able to split them out and see them on a dashboard, like we said, you know, people have always wanted to do this. You know, be able to break them down like this. I guess it's worth us mentioning the. I think it's worth us mentioning the timeline at this point. We only released this on Monday.
Yep.
It was obvious that people. I think we had this from the beginning, right? The timeline. People have always loved the timeline.
I think timeline was pretty much the first feature.
I think so. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, and it was really good. You know, being able to see your running periods, check your cycle times, check the gaps in between, see the big problems of the day was kind of, you know, a really powerful thing to put in people's hands. So we wanted to make sure when we built these new customizable dashboards, we wanted to make sure that we could include the timeline in there pretty sharpish. So I know we've only just released them to custom dashboards, hence the webinar, the stream. But yeah, this has just come out Monday. So a lot of you, I guess, yeah, customers on the stream watching this, you probably haven't seen this yet, unless you've been looking around and you've got a keen eye. But it is in there now. So yeah, it's a great tool to use, very much in the same way that the old one was. But you can have it there, and as we say, it's always live. So you know, I can sort of scroll back in my timeline. I've got a big one on here because I'm on a daily morning stand-up, so it's a 24-hour one. You can choose the sort of time frame you're looking over there, which is pretty cool. I can go back to now to go back to the live information, and if I want to zoom in anywhere, there are these little buttons over here for that. But as it says, look, I can sort of press Control and zoom. So if I'm interested in maybe this, you know, group downtime events yesterday that happened here on this Herco machine, I can go ahead and zoom in and see exactly what, you know, what makes that up. You know, operator unavailable, and then we were waiting for inspection after that. So, you know, it's a great thing to be able to, you know, have right side by side with some of those, you know, widget data that you've kind of got set up already on there. So yeah, have a play with that. You know, get it into your dashboards if you're already using the new custom dashboards, and make the most of it and see what you think. It'd be great to sort of get some feedback on it.
Yeah, and I think this is just an example of, you know, with this new FourJaw as opposed to classic FourJaw, we are now in this process of releasing new features every 2 weeks. Yeah. Now some of those features will be minor bug fixes and small improvements, and then some of them will actually be much bigger features like this. Now, FourJaw New is very much the direction of travel that we're going in as a business. We're not doing any further development on the classic FourJaw. But we are currently running them side by side, so everyone can access both platforms at the moment. And what we're doing now is we're building out the value, as you've just seen in the timeline, in FourJaw New. And once we get to the point where our customers are basically showing us and telling us that they're no longer using Classic, then we will end of life Classic, and New will be will just become FourJaw. So our product and engineering teams are constantly innovating to ensure that the platform continues to meet your needs. And so FourJaw just gets better and better and better as time goes on. So this is the future. Let's. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. So let's move into theme number 3 now, which is the part that people are most curious about. So what are other manufacturers who are currently using FourJaw New? How are they using it to drive improvement on their shop floor?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly that. Let's talk through, you know, what we've actually seen people doing with this already. I guess at least without a timeline. I don't think we've got any stories of what people are using that for just yet.
Came out on Monday.
It's probably obvious, but yeah, let's have a think on this. You've probably been reading them as we've been sharing our screen, I'm sure. We may as well start from the top here. The morning stand-up dashboard seems to be a really common first thing for people to build here. Many of our customers sort of relied on the old dashboards for those morning stand-ups, and that's where, you know, like we've said from the beginning of this stream, you know, the flexibility of the new ones really means that they can, I guess, cut straight to the point, you know, use them to drive that focus that bit quicker. They know the data set every time. It's the same data set every time. It's purposely built and made for this. So, whether they're emailed this out, which we've seen, and printed off to put on notice boards, so using that automatic, PDF sharing um, option that we've got. Some people, prefer to work that way and get them on notice boards, print them off, and discuss them, in person. Others have, live screens. They'll have the big TV in a meeting room, sometimes even on the shop floor. And there's no need to tweak those settings or waste time there. You've just got that dashboard built for you. So it's all about spending less time on the admin and more time you're talking about or making the improvements to actually move the needle, actually increase productivity.
Well, in this particular instance, it's about getting around some data once a day that you're familiar with, looking at yesterday and looking at what you're going to do differently today.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, great use case. If you've not built one of those already and you do have morning meetings, go for it. And I would say just have a think about, what discussions, if you don't have a set that you're happy with and you've built already, because this might be new to you, have a think about what conversations you have where, and ask the question, what data from the machines, what downtime data, what running data would help us get to the point in those meetings.
And to be honest with you, if you're kind of going, where do I start with these dashboards? Just reach out to customer success. We've got Chris Parkin, Richard Donson, and Freddie McDonald. They're there to help you guys with this. So do feel free to get in touch with them if you're going, right, I want to build a daily morning stand-up dashboard. How do I do it?
Yeah. The next one worth mentioning is that one we clicked on a second ago as well, which is the in our case, and on the screen, it's called a turning cell detail. It's really a cell specific dashboard there. Think about an area of your plant. You've likely got someone that's responsible there for that area. Having that conversation with those people, whether it's a weekly basis or monthly basis, which tends to vary, but that conversation that you have there, how is that going? It's been a great way we've seen the platform used. The early feedback that we've got is that people are building this. It helps the team leaders and the managers drill straight into those recent issues. Maybe a recent past performance, what needs to happen next, what do we need to do differently, and with the facts driving that conversation, both sides of that conversation there can skip the guesswork and focus on, again, what's holding them back, what needs to change, and how we're going to get the most out of the teams and the machines there, essentially. The third one is the weekly overview. We actually built some of this when we released the new custom dashboards. We actually built these for all of our customers to give you a bit of taste of what's possible. It is, for that reason, it is very top level, but what it means is it's really good for sharing with leadership, maybe with the board, maybe with managing director, depending what size of business you are and what your structure looks like. But as we said earlier, being able to maybe automatically send these out and then have the discussion, or being able to give them access, give them viewer access, go and look at the data yourself. At any time, anyone in leadership wants to see the reality of what people are dealing with and the problems that everybody's tackling and trying to make better. Going and seeing that for themselves, I think is a really effective way of it's just open communication. It's better for everyone to be aware of what everybody's dealing with than not, isn't it? So we're seeing a lot of value from these executive level dashboards, let's call them. Gives them that higher level view. Identify quickly where that attention is needed. If budget is needed to do something, being able to back that up with real data and actually make a difference and get those decisions made for the right reason is what we want people to be doing with it.
I mean, so we've got a great example, just the other day, of one of our customers who their top downtime reason in a week was waiting for first off inspection.
Yeah.
And so they made a small tweak to their to the way that they do things, and that's if it's a first off inspection, you push it through. It goes to the front of the queue and you get it done because the machine stood waiting. And they saw the following week, it was in the region of 40 to 50 hours in a cell of increased productivity just by making that small tweak to their production changes, or to the way they do things. And so loads and loads of we sort of collect lots of little stories like this, and obviously customer success sort of take them with them in their heads, and then when they see things pop up, they can then communicate them to our customers. So
Yeah. Oh, well, I always like it when people find the sort of, not the bigger issues, but the things that you see less of on the machine in the weeds, and it's more of a bigger picture.
Mm,
You know, we hear it time and time again when people can't prove that they don't quite have enough work to fill the machines. They don't have enough people to run the machines effectively.
mm,
They don't have raw materials stored in the right place to be able to get it to the machines quickly. They lose time because they can't get their work orders to the machines, quickly enough, or whatever it might be. And because we're always just looking at what is the reason for that machine not running, you're able to capture all of that. So when you need to paint a picture of, I think we need some investment here, or we barely use that machine because here's the evidence, or we really use this machine and we could do more of it. Look, we're at capacity.
mm.
All of those big, I think a lot of people see them as, a higher level of, decision making almost. You can really start to see some of that, and we do see that time and time again.
Yeah.
We have got a load of success stories with those kinds of things in mind, because it's the big needle movers that we see there.
I'm just looking at time. We've got 2 minutes. We might overrun by 2. Do you want to
Yeah,
quickly do overtime?
yeah. Let's do it. I'm sure people will be able to catch up if they need to jump off. Yeah, overtime's a really interesting one. We'd never really thought of this too much, and we saw a couple of customers actually build this. Because the system has got your shifts built in, it's able to look at then the off shift running time that you have. So as you can see from my screen now, being able to have a dashboard that's it's all of these widgets are basically looking at off shift time. So you can see straight away we've got 70 hours so far this week of running being done off shift. We can see the breakdown per day over here, and then we can see how that breaks down on different machines. It's a really impactful use of the new dashboards, tracking that over time. Um, Being able to see that is sparked conversations around efficiency, bottlenecks, and whether overtime's really adding value that they thought. It's not just about cost, I guess. It seems to be about understanding what's driving that extra time, and how to reduce the need for it in the first place, which is interesting. If you can maximize the core hours, do you really need to be spending on that potentially expensive overtime?
Yep.
Really interesting concept, but yeah, great use case if you want to have a think on that and you do have overtime. Probably a good option to try out.
Got a question come in from Davis, which is for FourJaw setup, what's the best way to present dashboard information? As percentages or in hours, and why?
Yeah, that's a good question, I think.
I think it depends.
It's a bit of horses for courses. Yeah.
And I think certain graphs you want percentages, and other graphs you want hours.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at your downtime reasons, it often isn't that helpful seeing your downtime reasons in percentages, because actually you want to know how many hours has that downtime reason cost us. Yeah, because then you can use that to then build a business case around removing that downtime. But if you want a higher level sort of, how are my machines running, then actually percentages could be really well, could work really well, because you get to see them side by side. So it very much comes down to what you're looking for, really.
And maybe that's a good good point on the new dashboards. To be fair, this example I've got on the screen now, we're showing a Pareto in percentage. I think because Paretos, by definition, probably belong in percentages. We know 28% of all our downtime is unlabeled downtime here. I could have a set of Paretos right below this. I could duplicate this, and I could have it right below this, where I just go in and change it to hours, and then all of a sudden I've got one above the other. I know that 28% equals 10 hours worth of downtime yesterday, unlabeled. So being able to have both data sets, if you want them for good reason, is entirely possible. You'll see a mix when we've gone through this. You'll see a mixed bag of them, simply because there's probably a right time to have it in percentage. And if you really want to see the reality of what it costs in hours, sometimes it's quicker to understand the cost when you see the hours. Money gets applied quicker when you see the hours. It can be really good to go for that one. But yeah, great question.
Yeah, great question. Well done. Thank you. So in terms of wrapping up, so whether you're on the shop floor or you're in the boardroom, these dashboards let you cut through the noise, get aligned, and act fast.
Yeah, and they're live now, so yeah, if you're a customer, log in, start building if you haven't already. If you're not, like we said at the beginning, feel free to get in touch with us. First step is usually just to have a chat with you, work out whether we can, help you or not, see whether it work for your team. And if you are a customer, also go and have a look at that new timeline feature that's just been released on Monday.
Just a reminder, we're going to send out a feedback form. Please do, give us your honest feedback. I know I should switch the mic on at the start of the next one.
Please, if you can inundate that form with Chris should put his mic on, that'd be great.
But genuinely, the feedback will be really important to us because it'll inform, how we do this going forwards. So I hope you found it useful. We are planning another one of these. It'll probably be start of September. Let's get the holidays out of the way for everybody. So start of September, and it's going to be on a slightly more advanced use case, which is how you use our API to extract data and then dig into it to really drive continuous improvement projects. So be a little bit more technical than this, but it's all going to be around, using the API to drive CI initiatives and CI projects.
Yeah.
That's, might be interesting to get your feedback on how useful you think that might be.
Yeah, I think there is some customers probably on here or certainly watching this back that they are quite interested in that. We've got more and more customers now getting to a stage where I think they're ready for more detail on the APIs and more understanding. So that's cool.
The other thing is, don't wait for the webinar. If you desperately want that, that, give us a shout.
Yeah,
we can work with you on it earlier than that.
Yeah. So as Chris says, yeah, feedback forms incoming. But if you enjoyed the stream, we may as well play to YouTube's algorithm, ask you to give it a like, share it with your colleagues and friends who couldn't make it, of course. It will be there live for you to watch back.
Thank you very much for joining us, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys at the next one.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.